A good Friday afternoon to you, everyone. Live, Keep It in the Ring. I'm Rich Mancuso. Thank you for tuning in on Facebook and my YouTube channel, Rich Mancuso, and other social media platforms. Like, comment, and subscribe. Fans, my social media handles scrolled at the bottom. Ring786 at Twitter, Facebook.com, Rich Mancuso, and also don't forget, we're live also now on the AGT network, and log in there, like, comment, and subscribe. Really would appreciate that. Welcome in once again. Busy boxing week, busy hour up ahead. At the bottom of the hour, I will have a guest, Keith Idec, who is a nationally known and well-reputed boxing writer, one of the best in the business, and we'll go around the horn and talk about what's going on in boxing. And you know, there's a lot going on. Thank you for being a supporter of the program. Thank you for a supporter of me, Rich Mancuso. Sorry to say again, Richard Pearson not with us this week. I'm going solo again. Rich has been really tied up with a project in business, and to tell you the truth, folks, I don't know if Richard is going to be doing the program anytime soon. I'm working on it. I hope so. I love Rich, but sometimes that's what happens. You get busy in other things and it happens. But in the meantime, we have a lot to talk about. Plus, of course, it's combat sports, pro wrestling news, a lot of that. We'll get to that later. And we get some MMA, and we'll do that as well. We do it all here on the program every week. Carl Roberts behind the scene, and let's get to it. And let me vent a bit. Let me talk a bit about what went on this week with Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney for that 140-pound division that always seems to be the topic of discussion on the program and in boxing almost every day, folks. Well, they had their two-city press tour. New York at the Palladium in Times Square, Los Angeles, California yesterday. And folks, I want to tell you, extravaganza, if you're reading my social media post and also my column on NewYorkSportsDay.com, it's not so much comedy, it's theater, it's theatrics. It's not like boxing press conferences of years ago, with the exception of Ali and Frazier in that era, when Muhammad Ali, the Hall of Famer, and Joe Frazier, the Hall of Famer, reigned boxing with the heavyweight division, and they had theatric press conferences, but not of this magnitude that we're seeing now, that we witnessed the last couple of days this week in New York and Los Angeles with Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney. Now, I'll give you an example. We go to New York first at the Palladium at Times Square, and if you saw it on all your social media platforms and all around, and if you're a boxing person, you saw it all. Ryan Garcia with his big entrance, coming in with hula hoop girls, and then we get Ryan Garcia sitting on his throne. Folks, I've never seen that before, except for Prince Nasrid years ago with his extravagant ring entrances going into an arena, into the ring for his championship fight. Let's take a look at this picture, my friends. Let's take a look at Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney in front of the Barclays Center, where it all occurs on April 20th in Brooklyn, New York. Originally, it was set for Vegas. Ryan Garcia then said, I don't want it in New York. I want it in Vegas, where he lives, and where that's Fight City, Sin City. But he gave into it and then complimented New York and all the fans and said New York was the place. Bernard Hopkins, the Hall of Famer, former world champion, who is a partner with Oscar De La Hoya, promoter of Golden Boy, of this big fight. And, Hopkins said it. Champions are made in New York. This is where it has to be. You put your staple in the business, and your legacy, it starts in New York. Well, I could agree with that in many ways, but Las Vegas and now even Saudi Arabia have become the capitals of boxing and the sport, as you know, my friends, with a lot of money involved in both areas of the country, in Vegas and Saudi Arabia, for big championship fights. Well, this one, too much of an extravaganza. This one then got too much out of a hand. They were pretty much good on Tuesday in New York. I mean, they jabbed. There was more Bill Haney, Devin's father again, who was the center of attention in New York, who had more words to say to Ryan Garcia, and more things to say about Garcia's trainer. And then it shifted to Los Angeles, And in LA yesterday, it got ugly. No pushing and shoving. I thought that would happen. But an extravaganza. And the back and forth bomb and insults. And we take a look at this crazy entrance that only Ryan Garcia, the King, can do. I want to hear strategy about this upcoming mega fight on the boxing calendar that will do great numbers on the Zone pay-per-view. A great fight for boxing. I want to hear about strategy and how significant this fight is for the sport and how significant this fight is in that competitive division of 140. But again, we saw this. Take a look at Ryan Garcia's entrance. I'm sure you saw it outside. Carl, put up the photo. Ryan Garcia on his horse in the white King almost outfit. Looked like he was ready to go to heaven, for Christ's sakes. Unbelievable. Never seen this before. I've seen theatrics. I've seen press conferences over the last few years get worse and worse and more dramatic and theatric, if you want to say that. This one topped it all. The horse wasn't allowed in the venue for the presser, but Ryan Garcia, the King, did eventually get there, and then the verbing and jarring continued, and Ryan said that Bill Henney, his dad, had a Don King type of hairdo, which was crazy, which was funny. And that's what I ended up doing, looking at these two press conferences. I wasn't able to attend the one in New York. I wanted to, but I watched them both on social media platforms, as a lot of you did, I'm sure. And I was laughing. I thought it was funny. I thought it was stupid. I thought it did not achieve the objective that we want when you have these boxing pressers, and that being promote the fight to the best interest of the sport and the fans. Instead, we get another dramatic act of comedy and drama and theatrics. So why have it? But they do it. Anyway, Bill Henney called someone an alien in blue, and I think he meant Oscar De La Hoya, the promoter, in the blue outfit. And he said that Ryan Garcia will go down by round 5. In the meantime, Garcia says, I win this in the first round by knockout, and if I don't, I retire. Well, I don't think that's going to be the outcome. I don't think it'll be a first-round knockout by Devin Henney. I think Henney will win the fight. To me, he is the top fighter in the world right now. That could be argued, pound for pound. Regardless, theatrics, a fight that is good for boxing, but hopefully there'll be no dramatics in the ring come April 20th in New York at the Barclays Center. A fight, a generational fight, just like last year when we had Garcia and Gervonta Davis. And a lot of questions about Ryan Garcia. How long will he last with Devin Henney? Garcia said that he will pull it off. Henney is very confident, and we know from his background, we know from his young career record in his career so far, that he does live up to expectations and does what he has to do. At least we've seen that in those last few fights with Devin Henney. As to me, he's getting better and better, despite a couple of fights before that didn't look so great. But he works on things. He's focused. The only thing is, I think his father, Bill Henney, gets too much into his head, a little bit, maybe too much. What do you think? Like, comment, and subscribe. But we look forward to April 20th, despite what we saw this week at the press conferences. And please, promoters, De La Hoya, Eddie Hearn at Matchroom, everywhere else, please stop the theatrics. We don't need that. We don't need the vulgarities. We don't need pushing and shoving. And we don't need to go to a Broadway play or a something like, in other words, we don't need theatrics at boxing presses. Talk strategy, get to business, talk about the fight. All right, let's move on and let's talk about this thing now. Let's talk about coming up in Puerto Rico tomorrow night in San Juan, described as the biggest boxing event in Puerto Rican history. In San Juan, it's going to be the return of Jake Paul and his promotion, and Jake Paul back in the ring cruiserweight against Brian Ballard. There they were yesterday at the final press conference in San Juan. The weigh-in later today. Jake Paul is, again, favored in this 8-rounder. Again, we want to see Jake Paul fight legitimate good fighters, but for my sources are telling me, I don't know much about Ryan Ballard, but Jake Paul will be able to handle this rather well, and I don't think there'll be an upset here. Then he wants to move on, and even say possibly wants to be a tag team partner with his brother in WWE, Logan, for the WWE Tag Team Championships. They both live in San Juan, and they're very close, and they both attend each other's fights. Jake goes to Logan's WWE events and vice versa. And on that card, you're going to see Amanda Serrano. She's good for boxing. There she is. Amanda Serrano will be the main event against Nina Menke, and 12 3-minute rounds, which she's been advocating for female fighters, and she got it. She's defending her championships, featherweight titles, all of them. She's good for boxing. She's put female boxing on the map. I'm a very strong believer in Amanda Serrano, and she will continue to try and succeed, continue that great legacy and what she's doing for female boxing over in Puerto Rico and San Juan tomorrow night. That live on the Zone and not pay-per-view, and good for that. So you have some good boxing coming up this weekend, including that one. Let's move on and talk about the so-called face of boxing, because he can choose and pick who he wants and when he wants to do it. Canelo Alvarez, as we all know. Canelo Alvarez, and now set for May 4th. He has an opponent. Let's put that up, Carl. Canelo against Jaime Munguia. Munguia, the proud Mexican great puncher, and Canelo Alvarez, unified 168-pound champion. Now, Canelo got this fight because he left the PBC. He had a 3-fight deal and decides, I'm Canelo Alvarez. I'll do what I want. He is supposedly the face of boxing. So what he does and says, I'm leaving PBC now, and he's going back on the Zone, and he's going to be seen there now, not on PBC and Amazon Prime. A blow to the PBC in some sorts, even with their move to Amazon Prime. However, Canelo Alvarez, as I say, picks and chooses what he wants, gets what he wants, and he can do that. He makes a lot of money. He is supposedly the richest fighter in the sport right now. So now we have the Mexicans together. 2 Mexican fighters will draw a lot of numbers in Vegas on May 4th. Canelo against Jaime Munguia. However, Canelo Alvarez made this move because, again, he wants to choose who he wants. If he wants, he can go up to light heavyweight, which I don't think he's going to do now. That's going to be a good fight on May 4th in Vegas, Canelo Munguia, and we'll go more into that in the weeks to come. But one thing we do know, because of this move for sure, and because of what he has said now, David Benavidez and an anticipated fight with Canelo Alvarez is not going to happen. At least not at 168. Benavidez has been trying to get Canelo for the longest, the last couple of years. Canelo, it looks like he's been avoiding him, and maybe this moving to the Zone now and getting away from the PBC that has David Benavidez. Let's put David Benavidez up right now, Carl. David Benavidez right now has said his next fight, light heavyweight. And that means no more Canelo Alvarez. Now, again, boxing, to me, got this wrong. But this was not David Benavidez's fault. This was Canelo Alvarez and all his attempts to avoid this great puncher, David Benavidez, who could possibly dethrone Canelo Alvarez. But now he's not going to get that chance unless Canelo decides, you know what? I'm going to move up to light heavyweight. Let's fight. But Canelo wanted a rematch with Dimitri Bivol, which isn't going to happen anytime soon as well. So David Benavidez now feels it's best for him to be up at light heavyweight, a competitive division also in boxing, where Bivol and Arturo Beterbiev in early June will try and unify that light heavyweight title. And then David Benavidez, supposedly, as they say, the alphabet soup organizations say that Benavidez will be the mandatory to the winner of Bivol and Benavides. What do you think? Like, comment, and subscribe, fans. This is It In The Rng. I'm Rich Mancuso. Social media handles scrolled at the bottom of the screen, as well as some of the upcoming significant fights in the next week or so. So here we go. All right, let's move on and take a look at this young man. There are 3 fight cards on the calendar tomorrow night of significance. We 2 of them rather. This is Jake Fall, if you want to look at that as significant, and then you have this one, Top Rank, ESPN Plus. This young man, Richard Ford, put that up, Carl, for the vacant WBA featherweight title. Here they were at the presser yesterday. Now, Ford is a young man, very quiet, very subtle, very proud of what he does. This is a division, the featherweight division, that is going to get a lot of attention starting tomorrow night once again on ESPN Plus, courtesy of Top Rank and Bob Rabin, the promoter. Is on this card. It's Ford against Idec, Kalbatan, if I pronounced that right. I'm botch names up all the time, and I'm sorry about that once again, folks. And Luis Alberto Lopez will be his IBF featherweight title, trying to retain it tomorrow night against Lopez. We go again. Perez, IBF featherweight title. You know, I'm botched up on noon on Friday night. I'm botched up. No excuses. I'm at fault here. Anyway, let's look at that division. Let's look at tomorrow night. Let's look at Richard Ford. Let's look at Luis Alberto, who could be headed for a clash. The featherweight division is going to start getting some more attention beginning tomorrow night, folks. ESPN Plus, Top Rank. That young man, Richard Ford, is an exciting fighter to watch. I say that about a lot of fighters, and Richard Ford is one of them. And why do I say that? Because you don't know much about Richard Ford. You don't see him much. He doesn't fight 3 times a year, as I discussed last week on this program with Mark Bandau, the former champion, where fighters used to fight 3 times a year. Now we only get to see him maybe once. We're happy if we see them twice. One credit to Canelo Alvarez, again, is he fights 2 times a year. He lives up to his commitment. At one time, he was doing 4 a year. We need to see more of that in boxing, my friends. So, busy boxing weekend coming up. And one other note that really drew my eye, that really gets to me, is the heavyweight, the undefeated heavyweight in the Top Rank stable that came out, that Jarrell Anderson, who has a fight coming up in April, Top Rank in Corpus Christi, Texas. Jarrell Anderson arrested again. Just yesterday, that came out according to ESPN. A top heavyweight that is making the rise up the ladder in the division, the prospect with Top Rank, arrested he had another altercation, obstructing police in Toledo, Ohio, where he lives. Had a fight scheduled on April 10th on Top Rank. Top Rank hasn't commented about, but Gerard Anderson, one of the rising young stars in the sport, in that heavyweight division, who has the potential to be a heavyweight champion, and Top Rank is pushing him well, as they do with all their fighters. He's arrested again. Too much of that. Sad to hear again. I'm sure that Anderson will find the way out. Top Rank will give an answer about this eventually, but April 10th, that fight might be in jeopardy, which he's to try and progress in his career. Not a good move. So let's see how that spans out. All right, folks, more boxing news to come later. And, of course, when we reach in the next few minutes, Keith Idec, an established and well-reputed boxing writer, will join me on the program. We're going to go all of this. We're going to talk about Garcia, and we're going to talk about that division of Garcia, Henny, and talk about Canelo Alvarez, and talk about Berlanger, and so much more. It's boxing. There's always controversy. It's boxing. There's always news. A sport that doesn't get the attention it deserves because there's just too much in between. I encourage you to do this, and I usually don't do this, but I'm going to tell you now. I encourage you all to find an interesting half-hour interview that, if you didn't see it already, do so, but you find it. It's available on YouTube. The Zone interviewed Oscar De La Hoya and Eddie Hearn, Chris Mannix in the middle moderating. The two of them opposite each other. And again, folks, I usually do not promote things like this because, competition is always nice, but this is boxing and good for the sport to talk about. Eddie Hearn and Oscar De La Hoya, who are co-promoting together and doing it again, they sit face to face and have a very lively, interesting, informative discussion about how promoters have to put a fight together, how fighters are commanding so much money with the streaming networks, how it's all put together, how fighters want to fight, and more so what got me and really interesting to hear was how the both of them discussed the alphabet soup organizations, that being WBC, WBA, IBF, so forth, WBO, alphabet soup, how they have a command on the sport, how they can dictate who gets who and what, and how they get around it, and how they put a co-promotion together that gets us to April 20th with Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney for Haney's 40-pound championship. So, watch that. Log on to it. It's available on YouTube. And thanks to the Zone for doing that. They ought to be commended for that. All right. More to come on Keep It in the Ring. Keith Idec upcoming. We'll talk boxing with this established, well-reputed boxing writer and have been a long-time colleague of mine and friend in the business. And then we got a lot of pro wrestling talk. Social media at the bottom of the screen. Scroll, as always. Keep It in the Ring. Reach me, Rich Mancuso, on Twitter, which is now X. We always got to get that right. It rings 786. Facebook.com, Rich Mancuso. Also here on the AGT network where we're live this Friday afternoon doing Keep It in the Ring. I'll be back in a moment, folks. We're going to get Keith on with us here on the program and go around the horn with him for a few minutes. And as always, you keep it in the ring. Back in a moment. Stay with us. I'm Rich Mancuso. And we welcome you back in live this Friday afternoon. It's Keep It in the Ring. I'm Rich Mancuso. Thanks for being with us. Like, comment, and subscribe on our social media platforms. On YouTube, my channel, Rich Mancuso. Would appreciate that. And the AGT network. And don't forget, Facebook.com, Rich Mancuso. That's where you get me. Also at Keep It in the Ring on the AGT network. And X, formerly Twitter, Ring786. All right, busy first half hour or so of the program, and it continues. I believe we have him. Carl, is Keith with us?
Yes, he is.
All right, let's get Keith on, and I don't know if we're going to see him or just hear him. But Keith, are you there?
Yes, Rich, I'm
here. There's my buddy, my longtime friend, Keith. Keith, if I got your all these years, did I botch up your last name?
Idec.
Idec, I got it right.
I've never heard you say it, so.
No, because I always call you Keith, my buddy. That's how I call it. Hey, Keith, first of all, thank you for joining me. Thanks for being on the program. I know you got a busy Friday here and coming on with us live and Keep It in the Ring. I really appreciate it. As long as I've been in this business, they call me a legend, but you're the legend.
Oh,
you know your boxing. And you know how to write it real well. You do a great job. You've been doing this a while, and boxing's your thing, like all of us. And you just know what you're doing now. Who are you with right now? Before we continue, because unfortunately, boxing scene where you were for a long time and did a great job covering and analyzing fights for that website. They had a turnover and a change, and this is how this business is. You know, we come and go, but you landed on your feet again real quick. So where do fans get to read your great content again right now?
Well, Rich, I appreciate the kind words first and foremost. Yeah, so basically, the short version of what happened is Paramount Global. I was a Paramount employee, and they sold the website about 2 weeks ago. The sale was completed. So, there were some discussions about staying on, and I decided to go in a different direction, as did most of the people who helped make boxing seem what it was. Wish the guys well, obviously, who bought it and are now running it, of course. So I've got some freelance things in the works right now. A couple of things I can't really discuss at the moment because they're not finalized yet. But I'm writing for the Premier Boxing Champions PBC website, writing features for them, and have several other things that I should be able to discuss in the coming weeks, but just not yet.
Good, Keith. We look forward to it because when it comes to boxing journalism, you're the guy. You know where you know what's going on. You're on top of it. You write it well, and you put a lot of miles in over the last few years traveling to all these fights. I don't know how you did it. I can't do it no more. But it's good to see you, my friend, and good to see you landing right back on your feet where you belong. Keith, we're going to go around the horn a little bit. And let's talk first about, which is fascinating. I mean, I talk about it, this division at 140, which seems to be reigning and taking over the boxing business right now. And, it does. It's full of young, exciting superstars. Did you catch any of the Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney theatrics this week?
I sure did. Got more interesting with each stop on the tour, of course, and went off the rails yesterday without question. Some things were said yesterday, some things were done during the press conference that you would prefer not to see. It is boxing, and as we well know, Rich, being immersed in this, anything kind of goes here. The rules go out the window for the most part. But, some of the stuff that was said and done yesterday, we could certainly do without. I know they're just trying to promote the fight for the most part, but yeah, it got very interesting.
Yeah, it did. More so, I mean, the entrances of Ryan Garcia, and I didn't mention it in the opening, which I did not like, and I'm sure you could attest to what I'm going to say, Keith. The references of Henny accusing Garcia of using cocaine and marijuana smoking and all that, and then Ryan Garcia admitted, when he's not fighting, he likes, in other words, likes to party, get away from it, smoke marijuana, and do what he wants to do. To me, that's not what these press conferences are made to. That's not what you want to do. But they went at it, and it continued. And what's your take on all that?
Well, I understand where Devin Haney's coming from to some degree, Rich, because he's training already for the fight. He's trying to promote this fight the best way that he can. And he is now not sure that Ryan Garcia is going to make it to the ring. The reason this was brought up yesterday, because there was a video that surfaced in which Ryan Garcia said he was high. Brought this upon himself, really. The stuff about the cocaine, that's all speculation, of course, on the part of Devin Haney. Maybe he has some inside knowledge about that. I'm not sure. He's just trying to get under Ryan Garcia's skin. But Ryan Garcia has brought some of this on himself by being very open, living his life on social media. He's a very polarizing guy, as you well know, Rich. So he brought some of this on himself. Devin Haney made several good points, I thought, when he said, hey, yes, this is boxing, but young kids look up to us, particularly in the social media age, Rich, where a lot of kids are on Instagram and TikTok and those sorts of things that people like you and I would just as soon ignore. Kids do look up to him on those platforms. So you do have some responsibility, whether you like it or not, to be a good role model in that sense. Yeah,
Keith, then they bring up religion. They're both, the praise to Allah, praise to God, and then they do all that. And it just, to me, you're not promoting the sport the right way. You're not promoting the fight the right way. Is this fight really in your era? And I've been around one good era after another. In this era, generational era, Keith, is this fight what you call a generational fight, just like the one last year with Garcia and Gervonta Davis?
I don't know if it's generational because Ryan Garcia has already lost. He's been knocked out by Gervonta Davis. I would say Gervonta Davis is the biggest star among those three fighters. I don't know. This fight is certainly not going to do the type of pay-per-view business that Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia did almost a year to the day before that. It's a big fight. It's a fight in the 140-pound division that people want to see. Devin Haney is clearly one of the top 5 or 6 pound-for-pound fighters in the world at this point. Ryan Garcia is a big puncher. He's only lost to Gervonta Davis, another top 10 pound-for-pound fighter. So, Rich, it's a big fight. I don't know that it's a generational type fight. It's a fight that boxing needs, though, because you need eyeballs on the sport. And it's who Devin Haney wanted to fight right away. Ryan Garcia said he wanted to fight Devin Haney. Then it looked like he was going to fight Rolly Romero for a little while. And then those negotiations fell apart. And then he went back to Devin Haney. So we're getting the fight that we probably wanted from the beginning. Of course, we would like to see Devin Haney fight Teofimo Lopez as well, because as you mentioned in the opening, Rich, the 140-pound division is stacked. So there are many moves that you can make within that division, but this is one of the best for sure.
Keith Idec, my guest here on the program. Keep It In The Rng. Like, comment, and subscribe here also at the AGT Network. Keith, over the years, and you've been doing this how long now?
Journalism, I've been doing 30 plus years, and
boxing overall?
Boxing about 27, 28, something like that.
And you love the sport like I do. You have a passion for it. What would you like to see come out of this fight? What does Haney Garcia do for the sport overall?
I think it gets us to a unification fight either later this year or early in 2025. I would like to see the winner fight Teofimo Lopez at some point. Subriel Matias, of course, is now aligned with the zone, so the winner could fight him. Matias is a high-risk, low-reward type of guy because he's obviously a huge puncher who knocks people out. He avenged his only loss by knockout. He's a guy who's not really as big of a star in his home, his home island of Puerto Rico as other Puerto Rican fighters have been. They're trying to build his profile there. His next fight will be there. So I think they want to build him up a little bit, build his profile up a little bit before they would put him in the ring with the winner of this fight. But that fight is makeable too. The Teofimo Lopez fight, there's certainly more money in that fight for the winner of this fight. So we'll see how it plays out. You know how boxing works, Rich. Of course, if the winner is probably going to fight someone else, besides Teofimo Lopez or Subriel Matias next, coming off a very difficult fight, and then maybe we'll see the unification fights thereafter.
Yeah, so this is probably going to be just a one-time thing with these two, Garcia, Haney. I don't think you're going to see them twice or 3 times because the way these fighters go up in weight now, because that's where the money is with the sanctioning groups, the alphabet soup groups, I call them, probably just a one-time deal.
And Rich, Devin Haney's already talking about fighting at welterweight.
Yeah.
He's only fought at 140 pounds once, and now he's already, discussing moving up to 147 because he's growing. He's 25 years old. He's 5'9"-ish, maybe a little taller than 5'9". And I know he had clothes on, and he said he had his shoes on and all kinds of stuff. But when he was weighed the night of the Regis Prograis fight, he weighed 165 pounds. So take away the clothes, the shoes, etc. He's still in the high 150s, maybe 160. So he's a big kid. So he's going to be fighting at welterweight, whether he beats Ryan Garcia or not.
Keith, Ryan Garcia has a lot to prove here. Talks a lot. He was a little more subtle, except for this and that at the presses this week. But he has a lot to prove, being that he quit in that fight with Gervonta last April that made a lot of money and set type of records almost on pay-per-view and such. What does Ryan Garcia have to prove in this fight? And if so, if he does not perform, does not do Ryan Garcia expectations that he says he can do we see more of him or less?
Well, even if he loses, we'll see more of him, meaning literally more of him in fights because he's only 25 years old and he's one of the bigger stars in the sport.
Both of them 25,
Right. So this fight is happening at the right time from a physical standpoint for both guys because they're in their physical primes. But yeah, we'll still see him in not maybe as big a fight as this one, and certainly not as big as the Gervonta Davis fight. because there aren't many stars in boxing. Certainly,
Right.
not many stars who have profiles and fan bases outside of boxing, which Ryan Garcia does. So
Right.
we'll certainly see him, Rich. But if he loses this fight, he'll have lost the 2 fights that he said he wanted most over the course of the last 5 years. And if this fight is not the type of competitive contest that people would want to see a rematch,
Right.
then where does he go? I mean, that's a good question, because then he maybe starts taking fights that people aren't as interested in. They try to rebuild him a little bit from there. But he does have something to prove here, Rich, in the sense that people think he's a one-trick pony. It's something that Devin Haney has mentioned multiple times this week at both press conferences, with the one-on-one thing they did that Chris Mannix hosted. He just repeatedly keeps saying things to get under Ryan Garcia's skin. And one of the things that gets under Ryan Garcia's skin more than anything is saying that he only has a left hook. He's
Right.
not out with his right hand. He wants to show that he's more than just a left hook artist, because that is his patented punch. That is the punch that people fear from him the most. Gervonta Davis said it many times and stayed away from his left hook for the most part. So he wants to go in there and prove he's a more complete fighter than Devin Haney and a lot of other people are giving him credit for being.
And regardless of what's gone on there this week, these two were been wanting to have this fight. They wanted to do that. They put it together pretty quick, and commend De La Hoya and Eddie Hearn for that. Friends since kids, and they were kids. 9 years old? They were in the gym together, and something like that. And now it's got bitter. Whether they're doing that to hype a fight up that doesn't need to be hyped or what, it's going to be really anticipated as we approach April 20th. I like Devin Haney. What about you?
Yeah, I would certainly favor Haney in the fight, Rich, just based on the paths of their careers over the last couple of years. You would have to favor Haney. There's some argument to be made, of course, that Lomachenko deserved to win their fight. It was a very closely contested fight. Could have gone either way, in my opinion. But what he did to Regis Prograis was career-changing. No one had done that to Regis Prograis. He only had one loss before he fought Devin Haney. It was a majority decision loss to Josh Taylor, a former undisputed 140-pound champion. No one had come close to doing that to Regis Prograis. So the best, most complete performance of Devin Haney's young career here. So I think you would have to favor him against Ryan Garcia, because not only has he beaten better fighters and in more convincing fashion, he's a more cerebral, complete guy. He's not the puncher that Ryan Garcia is necessarily, but as he's getting bigger and stronger, I think he's becoming more of a puncher. He's gaining his man strength, as they say, and he is seemingly becoming a bigger puncher. So he's the more complete fighter. He's the more proven fighter, and it's up to Ryan Garcia to disprove that on April 20th.
Well said, Keith. We're going to look at Canelo Alvarez in a few moments more you have with us, and I appreciate, again, Keith Idec. Canelo Alvarez now says he's leaving the PBC, and now he's back with the Zone. Obvious. And he's Jaime Munguia first, May 4th, which leads to the point of this guy who I failed to mention in the opening, who got he finally won by knockout after 5 decisions, Edward Berlanga. Carl, put up Berlanga's fight with his win over McCrory over the weekend. And Keith, what do you make of Canelo now, Munguia, and maybe Berlanga as his attempt to get on Munguia, Berlanga, maybe? Do you agree with me, Keith, in other words, that Canelo Alvarez is picking and choosing who he wants because he's Canelo Alvarez?
That's clearly what he's doing, Rich, and he has the right to do that. My pushback on it would be, well, then the people who are paying his guarantees have to have the right to tell him that you're going to make less. If you want to fight Edgar Berlanga on May 4th and not the Zone wants him to fight Jaime Munguia on May 4th, because that's an easy fight for them to make. They're in business with Golden Boy, and they're in business with Matchroom. Canelo would sort of realign himself with Matchroom in this context. And Oscar De La Hoya's company is the co-promoter of Jaime Munguia, and Canelo is willing to set aside the differences that he's had with Oscar De La Hoya himself and Golden Boy to make that fight. But they want him to fight Jaime Munguia on May 4th. They don't really want him to fight Edgar Berlanga. And if he were to fight Edgar Berlanga, they want him to take less money. They want his guarantee to be lower because it's going to do worse business than the Jaime Munguia fight would do. And that's what PBC did. PBC has not closed the door on working with Canelo Alvarez again in the future. They just wanted some assurance from him that if he fought Jermall Charlo on May 4th, which really isn't even a fight that PBC wanted to do. I mean, they're not, Al Heyman has been very successful in this business, not by doing stupid things. And he knows that the public's perception of a fight against Jermall Charlo would be very negative, and it would affect the buy rate because of what happened with Canelo and his brother in September. Jermall Charlo didn't come to fight that night. So
it's fascinating with all the money being thrown around. What's being done here? I mean, now Berlanga leads Top Rank, and he's in the picture all of a sudden now again after his win. And what do you make of David Morrell Jr.'s comment about Berlanga not being on his level and would destroy him in the first round? Because Morrell Jr., the young superstar as well, undefeated at 10-0 or so, and now calling out Edward Berlanga. Maybe that's a fight down the line for that one too.
Well, what I know about Berlanga's team, there is absolutely no way whatsoever that they will put Edgar Berlanga in the ring with David Morrell Jr. because he would, I don't know about first round knockout and all that. He would lose the fight. David Morrell is a much better fighter a more complete fighter than Edgar Berlanga. Unfortunately for David Morrell, he is a very high risk, basically low reward proposition for anyone. That's why Canelo Alvarez isn't even considering fighting him, because he's aligned with the PBC as well. So just to break it down quickly, Rich, the fights that people want to see Canelo Alvarez in the most, and you could rank them in order after David Benavidez. I think everyone would agree that Benavidez is the fighter that most people want to see Canelo fight next, right? He hasn't really given a reason why, but he clearly is not interested in any way in fighting David Benavidez. So that's right.
Agree.
I don't love the Crawford fight, just from a competitive standpoint. There are people, including very experienced, smart matchmakers, that do like the Crawford fight and think that Crawford really could win the fight. Be that as it may, I don't love that fight, but it's very marketable based on what Crawford did against Spence and that he was aligned with PBC. Canelo has said, I don't want to fight him because I'm not going to get credit for beating a welterweight who's 3 weight classes below me and would have to come up to 168. Okay, so those are the two most marketable options off the table. He doesn't want to fight Morrell because, and I understand this to some extent, Morrell is doesn't have the highest profile. It wouldn't be a big fight, quote unquote. So he won't fight Morrell. He doesn't want to fight Munguia necessarily next, even though that's a big fight. So who does he want to fight?
Right. Like, who does he want to fight? Right.
For $35 million guaranteed or more, who does he want to fight? Because at a certain point, if you're shelling out the money and you're guaranteeing what he's going to get for a pay-per-view event, you have to ask yourself, is it worth being in business with Canelo Alvarez for these types of fights? And I don't know that it is. The Munguia fight will make money because he's Mexican, he's undefeated, he knocked out John Ryder in his last fight, which Canelo couldn't do in the previous fight. That all makes sense. So if he winds up fighting Munguia on May 4th, there were better options and fights that I would want to see more. But the Munguia fight makes sense. Fighting Edgar Berlanga on May 4th, if you're DAZN and Matchroom and whoever else is involved in this, it doesn't make much sense.
Good strategy by Benavidez moving up to light heavyweight, because we all know Canelo's been avoiding him, and that fight's not going to happen.
Yeah, and I understand it from Benavidez's perspective, Rich, in that he can't wait around forever for Canelo. And he said that yesterday. I think Mike Coppinger spoke to him down in Miami yesterday or the day before, and he said, I can't wait forever for this fight. I'm not counting on this fight happening. Benavidez is a big kid, too. He looks bigger than 6'1".
Power.
6'1", 6'1.5".
Yeah, he's got a lot of power. I love him. Yeah.
And Rich, he's made 168 for quite some time, which was not always easy for him because he came in way overweight for one of those fights and got stripped of his title. So maybe he's just at the point where if he's not going to get the money fight against Canelo Alvarez, and even for him, the Morrell fight doesn't make much sense right now because it's not big enough, then maybe he just moves up to light heavyweight, either temporarily or permanently, because I'm sure it's hard for him to get down to 168 pounds at this point.
Cleet, what are you hearing about Terrence Crawford? Being that you brought that up, and Jaron Boots Ennis. Ennis is the mandatory. Do we see Crawford and Ennis? Do we? What's up? What's next for both those fighters? What have you heard? Come on, you know what's going on more than me, Keith.
Crawford is in a tricky position, Rich, in that he has said publicly and very honestly, I'm not fighting Jaron Ennis. He's already said it. I'm not doing it because it's not a big enough fight for him. He's in a great position coming off this career-defining win over Spence where he beat up Spence in a way that no one expected. And he had hoped to have cashed in on it by now. But Spence has this, has cataracts and he has another surgery and everything. So who knows whether that rematch, which no one wants to see based on the nature of the first fight, who knows whether that happens. The other fight that Crawford wanted was Tim Tszyu, and now Tim Tszyu is fighting Keith Thurman on March 30th.
Right.
Although Tim Tszyu has a history of let's just say he beats Thurman, he'll want to fight again in the summer because he likes to remain active. But will Crawford want to wait almost a whole year before he gets in the ring again, especially at age 36?
Yeah, it's getting late for him. Yeah,
we all want to see him fight Jaron Ennis because he's the undisputed welterweight champion, and Jaron Ennis is the young emerging star in the welterweight division. But he's not going to do it.
No.
The question is, if he doesn't get the Canelo fight, which it sure seems like he will not?
Right.
What's there for Crawford if he doesn't fight? If he's not going to fight Spence in this rematch, which he was contractually obligated to do, he's not going to fight Jaron Ennis. Virgil Ortiz is out of the 147-pound division. He's not going to fight Keith Thurman if Keith Thurman loses to Tim Tszyu. Who is he going to fight?
Right. That's the question. Fascinating stuff going on. That's why I say the sport is lively, doesn't get the exposure it deserves, which leads you to say, but we'll wrap this up in a moment. Keith, is the sport healthy? What's the state of this sport right now?
I don't know if healthy is the right word, that's for sure, because it's as fragmented as ever, Rich, and it's never a good thing when every network that has helped sustain this sport at the highest level for decade upon decade upon decade, all of those entities are out of boxing now. It's part of the reason why Paramount sold Boxing Scene. I thought at some point in my career that would be the job I took into retirement. But we also knew that if Showtime got out of boxing, Paramount wouldn't have much interest in owning the website because they're not televising or streaming the sport. So now Showtime's out, and they invested millions upon millions upon millions over the course of the 36 years they were involved in boxing at the highest level. HBO has been out of the sport for 5.5 years now. Fox dabbled in it a little bit, which was great for the sport because it was on broadcast television. They got out of it. And now it's a more niche sport than it's ever been. It's been relegated for the most part to streaming services, and people are getting tired of paying.
Oh, ridiculous!
15. And the DAZN app. Let's not even get started on that. I mean, that's $12 for a month or whatever. Whatever crazy price.
You end up spending like pay-per-view every month to watch boxing if you're a loyal boxing fan. It's out of hand. Keith, this has been great. A lot of info, a lot of content on your time, but I got to do one more thing before you leave, my friend. Fact of the week. I do it every week with my guest or my co-host, Richard Pearson, who's here once in a while. You ready to take a crack at the fact of the week with your knowledge of the sport?
Sure.
It's not trivia. It's a fact. Let's put it up, Carl. Fact of the week for Keith Idec, my guest this week on the program. Carl, do we have it? It's not fact of the week. I'm not making this into a Ryan Garcia, Devin Henney show. That's just the fact of the week to cue everyone that we have it. Take a crack at it. Remember, fact, not trivia. 1973-87 era of boxing. This Hall of Famer was known around as the turnaround fighter, meaning his natural righty switch to southpaw could be his closing punch, the right, to his opponent.
I'm unclear at the beginning of the question. You said 1973? Is that what you said?
The era of 1983 to 87. 83 to 87. Yeah. My apologies on that.
That's okay.
Hall of Famer, turnaround fighter. He was known because he was a natural righty, but used to switch to southpaw, so the right could be his closing punch to finish off an opponent. Hall of Famer during that era. Some great fights. Middleweight champ. I'll tell you that much. It's a fact. It's not trivia. I wouldn't know this unless I had it in front of me. But
you got me on that one, Rich.
How about Marvelous Marvin Hagler?
Oh, okay. All right.
All right. Yeah. People are befuddled by my facts, but I get them from, I was schooled and mentored.
How is that not trivia, by the way? I'm curious, Samir.
Who was that?
How is that not trivia? Not that
because Rich Mancuso made it a fact. That's why.
Well, there you go. It's your show. You can call it what you want. Right?
But my late mentor, who you knew well, Bert Randolph Sugar, who I miss dearly every day, taught me so much about the sport. He helped me with a lot of this stuff. So Bert used to tell me, don't give it away. Keith Idec, my friend, this has been great. We could go on and on. Where do fans reach you again? The boxing public needs to read your content. Where will they eventually see you? How do they get you on social media? Because you are, you're full of content with the sport.
No, I appreciate it, Rich. My boxing Twitter handle is at just my last name, at Idec Boxing, IDEC Boxing. And like I said, I'll be able to reveal some more stuff about what I'm going to be doing in the long term soon enough.
Well, do tell us, and I'll let everyone know you were great. You're fantastic. We're going to do this again real soon, okay? And I tell everyone, Keaton, have a great day, great weekend ahead, and let's keep punching. But most of all, keep it in the ring, Keith.
Sounds good, Rich. Same to you, my friend.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Talk to you soon. That's my longtime colleague and boxing writing extraordinaire, one of the best in the business, Keith Idec. Been doing it a long time, and that was a great 20 minutes or so. I thank him for his time. A lot of good information coming from a source. Keith's been around this boxing business a long time. He's out there more in it than I am right now. And in other words, he goes more to the fights at ringside than I do. And when it comes to knowing what's going on in the sport, you want to log on to his social media and read his content. I'll let you know where he's going to end up after being with boxing scene for a long time that no longer is now under new handlers, as they say. All right, Carl, we're going to take a brief timeout, real brief. We're running overtime today, which is good because we have a lot of pro wrestling to talk about. Social media, scrolled at the bottom. Rich Mancuso here at Keep It in the Ring. Stay with us. We'll be back in a moment, folks. More to come with the pro wrestling talk. And a little bit more after that. Stay with us. Back in a moment. Back with Keep It in the Ring. I'm Rich Mancuso here every week. We're live today. Thank you for joining us this Friday afternoon. X, formerly Twitter, Ring786, Facebook.com, Rich Mancuso, my social media handles, among others. Also on YouTube Live, where you're seeing this now. Like, comment, and subscribe, and also on Facebook and other platforms of the AGT network, where you're seeing this live. I thank you for tuning in this week and every week. I want you to stay with us. We have more to come in the weeks and months ahead on the program. Pro wrestling now. Keep it in the ring. Let's get this talk going. Then I'll bring Carl Robertson after this and talk more about it. Two deaths in the pro wrestling fraternity the past week, and two of them I knew better one than the other. Let's go to Ole Anderson first. Rest in peace. Ole was great for the business. One of the original Four Horsemen passed away after a long illness, and our condolences to his family and friends and those in the wrestling fraternity. Ole Anderson was not related to Arn, but they were members of the Four Horsemen with Ric Flair as well, and among other things down in the South. And this was old school good wrestling. Ole Anderson Rest in peace. He'll be missed. And then there's this other news that we received. I knew he had been ill. He was a friend and an adversary of mine at the same time when I worked in the industry, that being Mike Jones, Virgil, the henchman, bodyguard for the millionaire. You remember Ted DiBiase, the millionaire? There he is. Virgil passes away at a young age of 63 years old, I believe, had suffered some hard times in an illness, successful run with WWF and Ted DiBiase and the $1 Million Man. I tell that story that you'll eventually read at some point about me and Virgil being in an elevator up in Massachusetts when the $1 Million Man started to develop as a big gimmick in the WWF. And Ted DiBiase at the time in an elevator with me in a hotel up in Massachusetts, and Virgil are in the elevator. And then this young lady and her son walk into the elevator. Actually, the young son recognized there was an event up there somewhere in Massachusetts that we did. And Ted DiBiase is in the elevator and is with Virgil, and this young woman comes in the hotel, and the young son says that, Ted's talking to me. He was going to order a pizza because he was hungry. So the kid and the mother say, but you're the $1 Million Man. You're ordering a pizza? And nothing's open at the time, Bear. It's like in the wee hours, late night, whatever it was. And that got a laugh. And Virgil, I could tell you, Virgil up and down that elevator. Mike Jones. He ran on some hard times. He had this sort of bipolar personality at the end of his life before he got really ill. He was a character, as they say in the wrestling business, and a good guy overall to work with. And I got to say, the times I was in the ring announcing for him on the independent screen a few times, and also on the mic, Virgil was a good character to deal with. Just fell on hard times, and his going on hard times showed in his personality. But and then he just dropped out of the scene. He fell ill. And our condolences to Virgil, Mike Jones' family, friends, and again those in the wrestling fraternity. We lost two good ones this week: Ole Anderson and Virgil. Rest in peace, my friends. And now I want to go back in the past before I bring Carl Roberts in. Take a look at this old vintage wrestling poster that someone put on Facebook that caught my attention. And why they catch my attention is because I put this show together years back, 1983, I believe. And I think you see Dominic DeNucci, the late Dominic DeNucci, is one of the headliners, and some of the others on that poster, if I could barely recognize with my vision at an old age here. The old Wakefield Theater in the Bronx. And they made that into a boxing arena, and they wanted to do wrestling. So naturally, I stepped in. They were friends of mine, and we put this show together, and drew pretty well in a neighborhood up in the Bronx, New York. And that was the way. What I wanted to bring that to everyone's attention is, and Carl, let me bring you in now, Carl Roberts, a great producer behind the scenes. I wanted to bring that up today on the program to show people, when you promoted a wrestling show years ago, that's how you did it, with posters, not social media and such as you have today. Interesting, isn't it?
It is. And I'll be honest with you, we actually interviewed a celebrity last night, and we were talking about the promotions of movies or TV shows, and it's the way that the posters were designed is what caught your eye. The graphics, everything else.
Got you to buy the ticket. Yeah. Got you to buy it. And that was an example of it, because that show was put together years ago, 1983, I believe, and put together in 1 month's time. And the place was packed. Small venue. It used to be a movie theater, and they made it into a little arena up in the Bronx. And 1 month promoting, that place got packed. And those weren't the big time names in wrestling at the time, Carl. Tanaka was still relevant a little bit as he would retire a few years later. And Dominic DeNucci was always a part of the independent scene for years. because he used to be the late Bruno Sammartino, the Living Legends partner. So, yeah, I thought that was interesting, Carl. I thought I'd put that up, and I might do that from time to time here on the program. Let's keep it in the ring and continue, Carl, with the pro wrestling talk. Let's take a look at this.
Hold on. Before you
Yeah.
get into that, going back to the late Virgil, I actually met the gentleman 2 years ago up in Albany at the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Uh-huh.
And I got a chance to sit down and have a wonderful, wonderful conversation with him about his career and everything that's been going on with him. And losing him, besides Ole Anderson, is you're losing talent that could actually wrestle.
Yeah. And you're losing a part of the of
History.
our era that guys that we worked with, associated with. But time moves on. I want to get going on here, Carl. Thank you for your thoughts on that. AEW Revolution pay-per-view on Sunday, and the last match for Sting, Steve Borden. Let's put that image up of Sting. There he is. Great asset to the industry over the years. The retirement match tag team, him and Darby Allin, his lookalike almost, his idol, against the Young Bucks, who've changed their direction and what they're doing. Ric Flair going to be there as well. I thought Ric Flair and Sting go back. They have the history. I think this is a great angle to the build-up, and how Rick teased that he was going to turn on Sting. Now we see on AA Dynamite on Wednesday that Flair sided with Sting as the Young Bucks went, all mayhem broke loose, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
Can you briefly reflect on the career of Sting, a WWE Hall of Famer who kept it going at 65 years old almost in AEW?
He's got a 39-year career. So he debuted November 25th, 1985 as Flash for All California Championship Wrestling with his tag team partner, Justice, who went by the name Jim Hellwinger, which everybody knows him as the Ultimate Warrior.
The late Ultimate Warrior, right.
So go ahead.
Carl, how does Sting go out? He's going to win this match, but he's a tag team champion with Darby Allin. How are they going to work that out?
The way I would play this off is they win Wednesday night during Dynamite. They open the show with Sting and Darby in the middle of the ring, and Sting turns around and says, "I had my final match. I went out as a champion. I vacate the tag team champion."
Yeah, because he's retiring. Yeah, AEW, and we talked about this before we got on the air this afternoon. AEW is just, I think they're falling apart week by week. Do you agree?
I agree. Now, I was there when they first went live on TBS back in October 1st, 5 years ago. And I was at the first Dynamite taping ever down in DC, and it was a great promotion, great story angles and all that. But now it's just getting too wonky.
Yeah, the storylines are not as thick as they were. Granted, I like their finishes. You don't have interference breaking up a match. That I give them credit for. But they're lacking. They're missing. I don't know what it is. It's not like it was. But this pay-per-view to me, and Tony Khan said yesterday on the media call that he was going to be an increase with pay-per-view, which I think right now they're doing one too many. What I think they got to do, Carl, and I'll leave you with this on AEW, and then we'll shift quickly to WWE real quick.
Sure.
What I think they have to do is do what WWE did and go to a network. If they're going to do all these pay-per-views, they can't expect the public, the wrestling fan, to be shelling out more money every month, every other month for one of their pay-per-views. Tony Khan did say yesterday the media right distribution, there's big things happening this year.
I'll wait to see what happens with that, but the way AEW in the beginning was with their pay-per-views was 4 times a year, which it was great. because it's not like every other month like the WWE does. You got a pay-per-view here, you got a pay-per-view there. So doing it 4 times a year was perfect for them.
That's it. Yeah.
They need to cut back to the 4 times so they can bring the fan base.
And then they're going to keep doing this. They're going to need a network. It'd be so much better if they do a network at a minimal price like Peacock and WWE. And they're Endeavor now with they're merging with Endeavor TKO. But AEW Revolution is going to be interesting only because Sting's last match, his retirement match, Sunday night on pay-per-view. All right. And they got some other interesting angles going on. But
that's the only reason I'm watching it.
Yeah, I'll be watching it because it's Sting's last match. I'm not going to pay for it, but I'll be watching it. I am.
Yeah, exactly.
No comment. Call quickly. And if you have any images, do bring them up because I don't like talking over myself. No, WWE, what is the latest? What are you hearing? What I'm hearing? Are they definitely doing this at WrestleMania? Night 1. Is it going to be Rollins and Cody against Reigns and The Rock?
That's what we're hearing. Nothing has been confirmed yet that we can definitely say yes. We do have it confirmed for night 2 of Roman and Cody.
Yeah, and then The Rock will. Cody's going to win. Will it be a clean win? Or will there be interference from someone on the bloodlines to make Reigns lose?
Well, there's rumors right now is that somebody that The Rock has history with might be in Cody's corner, but we can't confirm.
I wonder. Is it Braun Strowman? He's on the return.
No. It's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, there's a lot of speculation. Good build-up towards WrestleMania weekend in early April in Philadelphia about this.
Here's the thing about this one. Okay, the rumor is it's a Hall of Famer. His last match ever was against The Rock.
John Cena?
No. Stone Cold Steve Austin is the rumor.
Yeah, they've been talking about Stone Cold, but because he wouldn't have to wrestle a match, and he would be, he'd get a great pop.
Like an enforcer.
Yeah, you see, that's the thing with WrestleMania now and Triple H. They're leaving fans in suspense more and more.
Which is what you want.
Right. It's not as predictable. Exactly.
Right.
We'll go more into it next week with WrestleMania because we're getting into that countdown, and we're in March 1st today. We'll talk more about that and more wrestling stuff. Carl, how do fans on the network, AGC network, they want to hear pro wrestling talk and much more? Go ahead. How do they get you?
You can find us actually live tonight at 8 p.m. right here on the AGT network on Facebook and on our YouTube. It's called The Main Event. We talk about MMA and we talk about pro wrestling, but tonight we're definitely going to be talking about more pro wrestling than MMA and bare knuckle fighting.
All right. Yeah, bare knuckles, too. I want to get into that because they've been reaching out to me, and I want to go into that. They have a couple of big events coming up, and we're going to talk bare knuckles, and more MMA will be coming up on the program, and even arm wrestling. I have something brewing this weekend. We're going to be meeting with a couple of promoters. I want to put this big event together, and I'll let everyone know what comes out of that. But, yeah, so whatever MMA talk I didn't get to today, of course, fans will tune into you tonight. Carl, great job. Thanks again, my friend.
Not a problem.
I'm going to say goodbye and wrap this up in a moment. Keep it in the ring. I'll talk to you in a while. I can never get rid of Carl, but I just did now. Does a great job behind the scenes at the AGT Network and helping us put on Keep It in the Ring every week here on the program. We were live today, and we might be again next week. Just tune in, log on. My social media at Facebook.com, Rich Mancuso, or at X or Twitter. That used to be Twitter, Ring786. YouTube, And like, comment, and subscribe at my channel and on YouTube, the AGT Network. Keep in touch. I'll let you know if we're live or on delay. This week we were live on Friday afternoon. I enjoyed it. Very informative. My thanks once again to Keith Idec. He a well-renowned boxing writer, well-known, and does a great job. Do keep following Keith Idec on X, formerly Twitter, to find out where you're going to read his content. Great 20 minutes or so with him, talking about the Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney fight, Canelo Alvarez, and so forth. If you want to know boxing, it's not me. Yeah, I can give you what I can get, but Keith Idec is out there, and it's just great to have him on the program. We'll have him on again. And but thanks to Carl Roberts and AGT Network behind the scenes. Thanks to you for tuning in and watching, fans. Hope you enjoyed this. Again, as much as I did, delivering you the latest boxing news and analysis, some WWE and wrestling, and we'll get more MMA next week. It's Keep It In The Ring. I'm Rich Mancuso. Don't forget, Facebook.com, Rich Mancuso, and X, formerly Twitter, Ring786. And like, comment, and subscribe. I would really appreciate that, folks. The more you do that, the more we grow, the more we can do. And I want to make this grow maybe even more than once a week. But it's because of you I do this, and I deeply appreciate that. As I tell you, reach me on social media. I will get back to each and every one of you the best I can. So, till next week, I want you all to stay well, be good to each other. And as always, as I say, thank you, and keep it in the ring. I'm Rich Mancuso. Till next week, fans, be good. Thank you.